Welcome to the Sidebar, a book club for special boys. I'm David.
I'm Gabe, the resident sensitive young man.
And I'm Capitalissimo, and I'm ready to slaughter this hog.
And today we're back with part 2 of Passage Prize 2, Rewilding. We're not joined by Tom Will. Tom's planet needs him, so he departed some time ago. But we have some notes that we might feed into an AI to regurgitate.
We'll probably use the voice of Orson Welles to stand in for old Tom.
Yeah, I guess you could say this Will was a will wisp.
Actually, I have an idea. I have this AI babe I'm going to put in the picture for this episode. I think I'll make a Tanya Will AI. And
it would be Tommy Will.
Tommy. Yeah, Toby sounds like a trap. Like
it's not named fucking Lilith or, you know.
But anyone listen to the last one? You know, we covered the first 100 or so. Actually, no, it was the first 50 pages.
Yeah,
we had big dreams to read the whole first half. We ended up
record the whole first half. We did read it.
Yeah, we read all of it, and now we're just trying to make up for lost time. So in order to preserve our own sanity, we are just going to try and hit everything that placed, finish up, and then we're going to do some shout outs, just some additional stories at the end that we really enjoyed, and poems. You guys might have some poems to call out too, and some thoughts on Passage Prize as a project. So unless you guys have anything else, without further ado, we can dive right in to A Son is Born by Sean Bell, second in fiction. And I can do a summary of this one, or if one of you guys wants to.
Go for it.
Let me know. Okay. It's been a month since I've read this, so please feel free to correct me. A Son is Born covers the story of a protagonist who goes out on a research vessel as a young man researching orca with his friend. Their names both elude me now, but they identify a pack of.
His friend's name is Miles.
Miles, yeah, it sounds like a dark friend's name. A pack of orca. It was squad.
I believe it's a
squib,
pod.
Whatever the hell they call it. A pod. Thank you. They identify a pod of orca. Identify them. Cool. Life goes on. Flash forward to our future.
So the pod of orcas that they had specifically identified was one that was kind of declining. It had a very specific society, but that society was on a decline.
They were geriatrics.
They were not reproducing successfully because they had a very specific lifestyle, unlike some of the softer orcas. Some of those
didn't they just have they had one kid?
Lazarus.
Yeah, they had one. Lazarus, also known as some native word,
also known as foreshadowing.
Yeah, Okwikwakwakwan. Time jump. We rejoin him as he's getting called back by his researcher friend Miles to support this research project that had just ballooned in size over the last 15 years or whatever.
Decades.
Yeah, and not only has the research project grown, time has changed, our characters changed, politically things have changed, and now Alaska is now retitled to its native name. It's acknowledged that it's stolen land. Alacoquicua, however you say it. Every geographic location has its native name or some approximation of it restored, and that's brought up several times in the fiction. And the big reveal is he arrives at this research base, and there's this giant rotating pivot wheel of whale nipples.
So it's called the Mother, and this horrible Euro meat spindle is a living organism that is rotating into the water. That essentially it's cloned orca mammaries.
It's a longhouse kebab
that is just meant to feed a massive unsustainable population of cloned orcas.
Yeah, and this thing's just squirting milk. Dare I say, imagine the smell. And and it kind of transitions into almost a history of the project that this guy's missed out on at that point. And we're learning about this progression of, they start out basically with one clone and or a handful of clones and like one or two nipples on this of like clone flesh, and then essentially the clones had trouble integrating. Lazarus was the only other orca that would tolerate them and took them under his wing. I believe all the not all the clones were female, but I think those particular clones were female.
So Lazarus had taken them, was the only one of his pod, the AT-1s, that was willing to interact with these Franken whales. And
all the old ones are posting "You will never be a real orca."
Yes,
constantly.
They were just whistling slurs. So Lazarus takes a few of them and teaches them to hunt, and Miles tries to allow the rest of the clones to become wild, but he figures out that these over socialized orcas that were dependent on this food source don't identify the things that they kill as food. So they're just killing and not eating.
They're literally milk drinkers.
They have to come back. Then I'm trying to remember what the exact next order of events was. So basically, they almost become adopted as his harem, and then I remember it escalates into more and more infighting as more clones are populated. It becomes more of a bloody mess because the clones start to attack the standard orca, like the healthy normal ones, and then it almost becomes like what was the name of the rat experiments where they became the beautiful ones?
Mouse Utopia.
It becomes a Mouse Utopia situation where there is like the beautiful ones, these like male rapist herds that go out and just like are raping and murdering other orca, and then the females like form these strange little harem gangs within the bay that they're primarily in. And it just turns into a shit show.
And there become outsider males that are extra large because they've grown up on all these like hormone laced orca milk, and they're hyper violent and
they're the incel army orcas basically because they literally can't breed. They're like it's really the 20/80 rule. They say only the top 20 males breed, while the rest of them don't, which are the pirate orcas. Yeah. When you think about it, like I read this, I thought
literally me.
Yeah, Trousseau
other
alert.
than the Trousseau alert, other than a gem Trousseau alert, I realized that the metaphor, especially the mother thing, right? But when you read the entire story, the metaphor is so on the nose. I can't tell if it's supposed to be a negative or not, or like a backhand positive or a backhand compliment, because it fits so perfectly. This is literally a Lion King, like, you know how Lion King is an adaptation of Hamlet? This story is an adaptation of basically Bronze Age mindset. Literally, you got pirate orcas. They literally call them pirates, right? The incel army rises up. They rewild themselves. They are the Bronze Age orcas. You know, they're out there reproducing by raiding and pillaging the world. He even says, like, you know, they can only reproduce by pillaging, right? They're out from the longhouse civilized beta males. They're out. They're gone. Only through them can they actually keep the fires of civilization, a true orcish civilization, alive. And it fits so perfectly. Like, you mentioned the whole native thing. Like, that's the exoterically political thing, is the whole native thing.
But the esoterically political thing is that building a bunch of heavily subsidized deracinated orcas is not the same thing as having a stable, healthy population with a culture that can be transmitted not through endless looped broadcasts from an underwater speaker.
You just create an incel warband.
Well, I mean, and it's also it really is the deracination of the orca tribe that they were trying to save, because they Miles solely through good intentions and hubris was trying to save this pod, but he was incapable of administrating a society, and so what he was trying to save, he ended up destroying in an incredibly like grotesque way.
It's purely scientism.
The population exploded. Surplus populations, and there was all sorts of difficulty having normal relationships between them, and some subset proved to be endlessly and needlessly violent. Who could read our own society into this story about killer whales?
Yeah,
and Kidu could be here. Kidu everywhere.
Yes. Yeah, it's so on the nose, but it fits
with a boat. You can go anywhere you want to. Where you want. Yeah. I've never been in this bay before. There could be Chugach transients here.
But it fits perfectly within the story, because at the end of the day, you can read this as perfectly as literally just as speculative sci-fi. This is just a generally good speculative sci-fi story about potential technology.
Yeah.
About like reprotech and gene editing. Like I never knew I wanted dissident sci-fi, like sci-fi speculative so much. Like actually, it's kind of beautiful.
The body horror of the mother is truly terrible.
It's grotesque.
Yeah, it's good.
Dude, I want to see like a live action version of the mother. I think this would be like a kind of a good like James Cameron film actually. Because
option the movie. I want nothing more than for James Cameron to option the movie rights for A Son Is Born from Sean Bell, and I think everyone can say that if that happened, we would be so and permanently back.
It'll be better than the Avatar movies. And it gets a point across way better.
I did not see the second one, but the first one was just worse. Dances with Wolves.
Pretty much. And also, what the good thing about this story is that it doesn't come hard as negative anti like gene editing or anti like reprotech or embryo selection or anything like this. It's a hard conversation that he has with himself, right? It doesn't lean one way because it goes three ways. You got the native orcas who are geriatrics. They're basically underwater pandas. They don't fuck. You got the newborns, but they're all basically global homo. They're completely sterilized. They're literally subsidized beings. They literally cannot live without subsidization from artificial stimulation from the speakers and from the fake mother milk, right? And then you got the psycho incel pirates, right? Who can only live through like doing the Bronze Age raping and pillaging orcas. So you have these three distinct entities. Like, would it be more noble just to leave the let the orcas die and go extinct?
Yes, it was.
The answer is let it happen.
No, I see. Well, he leaves enough especially with the main protagonist fantasizing about the pirate rapist orcas, about how they will carry on and they'll be the founders of a new legacy.
He
leaves enough interpretation.
Literally the opposite.
No.
But there was the talk about the rape, that they might have gotten one pregnant with like a gang.
Yeah, and he says he hopes
we have to hunt her down.
He hopes for the outlaws.
Yeah, maybe they could carry on the legacy, the few of them who'd escaped Shoot Bay, and by a miracle of their hatreds toward the mother, develop a taste for blood. The half-breeds, the sons of rape, the white-finned blackfish with bounties on their heads, these were the only remnants of the Chugach transients that might ever sing their ancestors' song. It's time to go, Miles.
Yeah.
It's time for us to leave.
Get me the fuck out of here.
It's peak Bronze Age mindset.
Yeah,
it's peak
okay. Maybe,
right?
but
it's
but they're not.
Well done.
Yeah.
I have two items I want to just mention. So one, imagine the smell comment I made. I actually literally do want to imagine the smell. That was the only negative thing I had about the story, was I wanted more tactile and sensory stuff. It was a little too historiographical, a little too here's the cheat sheet. I guess it's a short story. You got less time, but that was the only complaint I had. I was like, I would have loved to like, touch the rubbery nipples of this giant monstrosity and just like bask in this situation more physically. So that was my only critique of it. Not that it's lacking completely. I just would love more of it. The second comment I want to point out was just the parallel with modern society, because we mentioned it before with the native naming, but there's also increased diversification of the population. So the people themselves are described as like, I think there's like an Indian guy, a black guy, and all sorts of other ethnicities on the new research project. And similar to mirroring the animals, like blasting these names that no one knows what the fuck, these sounds that no one knows what the fuck they mean, and they just repeat gibberish back. The human society is literally in the exact same metastasizing process of just like throwing these fucking gibberish Naquiquaquaquil name that no one fucking knows.
Right.
And there's even like some comments from like the pilot who's unable to even like speak it properly because he's part of the old guard. He's part of he's
trying to hold it down and not show his power level by calling Anchorage not Iquacabakalaka like or whatever or whatever it is.
It was very deft. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, it fits it's so blatantly political right underneath the surface. But it fits really like a glove. It really does. And also, my criticisms is one where it's basically 100% told through exposition. We don't really get to see the cool incel pirates. We don't get to see the mouse utopia. The only times.
Well, yeah, but there's very, very little. There would be very little way to cover this much ground and this much writing.
Time. True. But the only times he sees is the punchline to the Lazarus naming. Which is my biggest criticism was why would you name a thing Lazarus other than obviously red flag foreshadowing something about rebirth? And of course they keep Lazarus alive as this weird.
It wasn't like foreshadowing. It was okay. So you're talking about the iron lung that they kept him in and all the like random robot organs just to keep him not technically dead.
They keep him as a goon cave, basically. He's literally trapped in the goon cave. The longhouse in the goon cave. But it's the one-for-one metaphors are so good, but they fit in so perfectly, so it's not even on the nose in a bad way.
All right. Anything else on this one?
Very good, dissonant, speculative sci-fi fiction, and I really want more just general good sci-fi from our scene. I think this is actually very unique in general. Yeah. Even politics aside, I think it's a good sci-fi story.
Well, you should probably pick up a copy of After the War, because there are some, also from Passage Press, because there are some very good sci-fi flash fictions in that one, including from our good buddy Dan Baltic,
friend of the show,
friend of the show,
has a very Kino 3-pager in there.
Our favorite Tookie Tugger, our nut cranker.
Yeah, I gotta check that one out. I think that's on the list for next year.
Yeah, that's what we should call our fans now, Tookie Tuggers. Dan Baltic has the nut crankers. We have the Tookie Tuggers.
Oh yeah, let's go Tugger Bros.
We'll run it by all 5 of them, and we'll see what they say.
Yeah, they could literally vote us down.
they only slightly outnumber us
by just slightly. Yeah, by 2. One of those is a guest host too, so that might not even be counted. Okay, up next, The Rotting Boat by Henry Charrière, second in poetry. And one of you guys could take this. Where is Tom's notes? We will probably need that.
Probably Cap. You should probably recite it. You're good at the poetry reciting.
Sure. A pretty racing skiff once laid, decaying beside my house, tangled. In kudzu even now you can trace its contours here among the weeds. Wood given shape by hand and eye and returned to the formlessness it once knew by termite rain and time, knowing little of boats, I looked on. A thing of beauty under my care, it pained me to watch it rot soon. I admit I could not bear the sight. Solemnly I saw the planks apart. The pieces, I burned them. Craftsman, your beauty is gone. Forgive me. So, did we read any full poems in the last one, just straight through?
We read like a dozen of them straight through, or at least half of them.
Well, in this one, I see why they went with it. The sense of it's essentially getting tired of the decay, and putting a match to it, basically.
And being forced to watch it. You couldn't even chunk it immediately. This poor fellow, the protagonist, literally has to watch it slowly decay.
Yeah.
And finally get rid of it. But he doesn't even get any satisfaction from getting rid of it, because all he can think of it is the craftsman. Someone actually took time to actually build this thing to begin with. and just watch it slowly rot away. It's
something that was something that was once like a beautiful craft was neglected and was merely and was merely a home for pests, right? So
pretty much,
and had lost its shape, was unintelligible as what it was at one point. And I mean, it is a tight a tight poem. We should put Tom did provide us notes, and I think we should put them in here. His note about this was that he preferred a later poem. Actually, I think he generally liked the poetry selections throughout this, but his suggestion as an alternate was, sorry, let me find this.
3 snapshots.
Yeah, it was 3 snapshots of childhood. Was his like preferred ranking, which is it's a much longer poem. But
I reread that one. That is actually a solid one.
I think there's only 1 or 2 things in this entire book that I didn't particularly care for. But I mean, it is very nice, and I see his reasoning, and we'll cut in an AI voice reading of his notes in here.
He has too many notes. Note to self, like when you send us notes, send us like 1 sentence so we can actually say it. I'll just read this one from him. He just said, meter is not perfect, but you can definitely see the rhyme at work. The rhyme is definitely getting some blood into the veins, particularly in, it looks like the last 2 stanzas. And with a little more tinkering, he thought it could be perfected some more. But overall, it seemed like he liked it. Just I think he had a little bit of polish he recommended, and maybe had another one he preferred. But
I see the thematic relevance of it, where you're bringing things back to ground, right? You are allowing the decay to reach a critical point. You accelerate and leave, right? So thematically for Rewilding, I do get it. But yeah, I mean, I did feel that this was, I felt it was a satisfying and tight theming. So
it is tight, but I would not put this in second place. It did not leave that much of it. It's a solid, but I would not have given this second place.
What was your pick?
Well, his 3 Stages of Childhood, that was actually a really good one. I really loved the love letter, since the first prize in fiction was to Lovecraft. I think the one to Robert Howard, that poem was Hyperborea Regained.
Hyperborea.
I thought that was actually, Hyperborea Regained was also an excellent poem.
Yeah, and, that one, that was a quite lengthy. Yeah, quite lengthy blending of Howard's personal mythos and his stories. So that was extremely
and same thing with Lovecraft. It didn't feel fanficky at all. It felt 100% actually genuinely artistically, not copying him but honoring him, which was a
Justin Lee's as we covered in the last one, Justin Lee's Lovecraft was everything that say something like Lovecraft Country was not. So
the white man's Lovecraft Country.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You sure you have another 30 minutes on this three stanza poem?
You know what? No, I think we're solid. I think we're solid.
It depends on how limber your jaw's feeling, Dave.
Sidebar. Tugger Bros.
Tookie Tuggers.
I don't feel so good.
Tuggy Bros. It's coming for you too.
Mr. Took is all tugged out right now.
Unzip dick. All right.
Okay.
Let's move ahead.
Up next, we're moving ahead to the second place in art, which is Sojourn Landscapes from Andrew Yan. There's the art judge, Fen de Villiers, had a very nice artist statement. And so it's essentially an attempt to capture the sort of numinous experience of being in a place where you are dwarfed. So she says, the awe-inspiring feeling one gets viewing a countryside expanse. And the first one is appears to be a woman and child in a darkened sort of maybe like a cenotaph where there's green lushness all around the rim of a cave opening and on the ground of the cave. And they're standing in a lightly decorated blanket looking at a waterfall partially obscured by shadows, and the bones of some giant beast are strewn about and hanging over the edge. It's certainly very evocative. It almost looks like it could be, concept art for a film or game production. It's very illustrative it's very illustrative in its ability to convey that kind of feeling, in my opinion. The second is an alpine valley with a rainbow, and snow seems to be melting off and feeding a series of interconnecting streams through the valley. And
the mountains themselves seem to be melting into it, actually. It's almost like the mountains are literally slurging into the water itself.
And I will say, I absolutely get this feeling because I was recently was in Lake Tahoe, and the types of feelings you get driving from the Reno airport, which is on a vast, near featureless scrub desert plain, into these gorgeous mountains, and eventually you, of course, come to the high mountain lake that is Lake Tahoe, and you get a very transportive kind of feeling from being in a landscape like that. I don't know if that's the case for people who live in places that look like that, but going
do you
going
get used
there
to it? Like
that almost seems like a tragedy, actually. But But I will say that I understand the feeling that was attempting to be captured here. And the last is a long highway road through a field of wildflowers, and an almost a really like transcendent depiction of the sun through mist, sort of overlooking the entire. This is a 2-page spread in here, sort of.
There's almost like a hole in the mist the sun's like piercing through. It's a really visually interesting choice. Like there's a ceiling.
It looks just enough like an eye, especially with the two tips. And you also forget the cartoonish amount of sheep, and that the sheep are literally rimming the mountains.
Are those sheep or something else? I thought that was like what is it?
Yeah, I almost thought those were solar panels.
Oh, they might be solar panels.
Yeah, and if you're interested, the car appears to be a Land Rover Defender. So very high quality touring vehicle.
Endorsed by Pass's Prize.
Yes.
Yeah. I loved all three of these paintings because if you notice, same thing we say with the waterfall. The actual like stars of the pieces are always semi-submerged into the environment. Like in real life, if you live on top of a mountain, or you are in Colorado and you see a mountain up close for the first time, it seems unreal. It seems unrealistic, even though it's right in front of your eyes.
Sure.
Just the grandeur of it.
If you ever go to the Southwest deserts and you see some of those rock prominences, like even in a place like Sedona, Arizona, where you see these enormous red rocks just rising out of the landscape behind a fucking Taco Bell, and you're like, this is such an amazing, geologic feature of the landscape. I don't believe it. I think it's a matte painting. You think it's, that someone added that in post. But there you are standing in front of it.
Yeah, you think it's an illustration from like The Hobbit or something. Like, you take out the car, you take out the solar panels, you add like the giant statues of Gondor, and this mountain could be like the eye, like the beautiful sun and the misty mountains, basically. Or the same thing with the melting of the mountains in the stream. It literally does look like the mountains are really melting into the stream itself.
Well, I mean, fantasy, especially fantasy that's well executed, is in the tradition of the Romantics, right?
Yeah, which Romantics were based on the loving of nature itself. Yep. If good fantasy is literally indistinguishable from like a ode to nature, which I think these kind of things pull off because they feel surreal. They feel in the realms of fantastical. But if you ever had any experience of actually being in nature, seeing a Colorado mountain up front for the first time, or being in the Nevada plains, or anything like this, Tahoe, like you said, you understand that sense of like, it's so larger than life. It's in front of your eyes, but you yourself can't believe it.
Yeah. There's a transition even in terms of level of fantasy within these, with the first one having a sort of supernatural or like alien looking gigantic skull looking feature at the top. The second one being framed like perfectly by a rainbow with these slightly fantastical mountains. And then the third being very grounded. It looks like something there's a picture from my road trip to Colorado. It's almost like there's even they open with the most grand and fantastical, and then it like draws you back to reality of like, this is still on the same level of how grand this is.
Right.
I don't know. There's something being played with there too. I loved it. The second's probably my favorite in terms of just the level of emotion it evoked in me, because I felt that sort of grand escape feeling that you get when you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Absolutely.
Oh, speaking of nowhere, with the last painting, if you try to follow the road, your eyes, if you start on the left of the page, follow the car, the road just disappears into the mountains, and your eyes are just forced to go up the cloudy shrouds of the mountains, up into this mist, and until you finally see the eye of the sun. So if you actually restrain yourself and actually indulge the piece a little more, you actually are taking literally through a journey through the mist.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always a sign of great art. I've been told by actual artists that if it makes your eyes move like that, that's like a sign of the artist's power level. If you guys are good, Gabe, do you want to be bang on king to the next one?
Yes, I believe the next one is Dog Whistle, right?
That's right.
All right, so Dog Whistle. This is the Jonathan Swiftian comical satire of the collection. So Dog Whistle by, Paul Robinson, I believe. What place? Third place for fiction. Dog Whistle is a social satire. It takes place in the not so distant future, where AI technology and gene editing have been advanced to such a degree that not only have we gotten crows and other avian-esque creatures to speak, we finally have the technology to translate dogs and translate their growls and their barking into English. Of course, it's hecking wholesome chungus at first. It's very viewed and very like, oh my god, talk to your best friend. Of course, it is revealed that your average dog has the racial vocabulary of your average poltard, basically. So, and the main joke and gist of it is how the people in like modern day have to deal with the fact that all dogs in the world are just virulent racists.
Yeah,
and they basically declare a day of the leash.
Day of the leash.
They literally use it. Night of the leash.
Night of the
Infamous
leash.
2032, where they literally just genocide the dogs, a vast majority. And of course, it ends on it's a subverted HBD message, where the protagonist, who's a son of a dog breeder / trainer, has to realize about an old pit bull he used to have, that sometimes dogs just have an innate nature, and you can't train them out of them.
It's not always our fault. Maybe it's just the dog.
Yeah. So it's a subverted, it's a it's, I don't know how to say it. It's a subverted red pill message, because he realizes that some behaviors are innate, but he's viewing it from like a leftist perspective, that sometimes hate is just natural. He still thinks the hate is bad, or this racism is bad, but he gets through that judgment through HBD realism. So that's the one interesting part of this, is that the punchline seems obvious, but there's that little twist where the blue-pilled protagonist gets red-pilled, but only to get back to blue-pilled conclusions. So that's the interesting twist to the punchline. But other than that, it's a very standard Swiftian punchline of a period piece.
I dug this. I had several sensible chuckles.
It's funny. It is funny.
Yeah, it's funny, and I appreciate that. Passage was going to give one of the top prizes to a comedy like that. That's good, because a lot of the times literary contests don't, comedies
they tend towards the grim,
or like over serious or something like that. And
they crack from their own pretentious weight.
There's some real humor. I mean, there's some humor in all of the winning fiction entries, I will say, but this one is straight comedy, of course. So, I think it's good that they went that direction. There's also sort of the the aspect of this where it's kind of an invented crisis, right? Because at no point does he say, like, he in fact says at one point, the dogs will act one way and then say different things.
They gossip.
Yeah, like they gossip about what neighborhoods have what racial groups in them, and then they're also racist about other dog breeds.
They have specific breed slurs. That was hilarious.
They have specific breed slurs that are so detailed and so rapidly evolving that the AI models cannot keep up. So they're incredibly creative in their bigotry.
Yeah, and there was no actually even consequences to anything. Like, literally, it was just the machine said the dogs were saying this, and that was the crisis.
Right, exactly.
And then,
so that was the issue. That was the issue. The speech was the entire issue, and so there's that aspect of the I guess in a certain sense the alleged speech is the entire issue.
Well, that's actually fairly believable, and that actually makes it more funny because the dogs behave differently.
People immediately put down all of their dogs because, oh no, my dog might have opinions. What is your dog's dog's opinion ever mattered?
The protagonist's dad tries to save them, right? Like he's a Cesar Chavez type guy who's like, I can unracist, I can be the no racist baby, whatever that fucking book is called, your dog. But he failed. I can anti-racist poochie you, and he fails. I guess either because the AI is fucked or just because the dogs are that racist.
No, I think it's hinted that the dogs are just that racist because the ending sentence wouldn't work that way. If it wasn't just that.
It's just how the dogs be.
Yeah, it's an HBD realism story, but told through a blue-pilled lens.
Yeah. Well, hold on. That was the sidebar I had for you guys. I don't know if you guys have ever had dogs, but
of course,
is it true? Were your dogs all racist? Because mine was like he would always attack black people for no reason.
Actually,
to varying degrees, yeah.
Actually, funny story.
No,
I had a dog that preferred black people because the one black person she ever knew was an employee of mine who would come in because I would have my dog in the shop occasionally. He would come in and have a fucking slice of gas station pizza and give the entire slice of pizza to my dog because he wanted. And I was low key annoyed by this because I was like, why does my dog constantly feel like she's going to get pizza? And it's because she would always get pizza from this guy. And that was the one black person she would regularly interact with. And so from then on, she just thought black people meant pizza. So
who doesn't love a good Uncle Tom, right? They know their place.
Yeah, that guy got fired for lots of theft. So, yeah.
It's not always our fault. Maybe it's just a dog.
Yeah, maybe the dog, maybe, yeah. Anyway, so but yeah, that dog was racist in favor of black people. That she had a DEI initiative that was based on pizza subsidies.
Based black friend syndrome.
Yeah, and my current dog is racist in favor of Asians because of my wife. So.
The weeb.
Yeah. I need a base dog that only listens to me.
Well, what you can always get a Labrador, and you can learn.
I have a Labrador.
Okay. You get another Labrador, and you learn a different language, and you teach that dog only in that unique language, and then it doesn't understand anyone else.
I know a guy who only has Malinois and only teaches them German.
See, that's thinking ahead.
Yeah.
That is productive, conducive planning right there.
Yeah, because he's a landlord in a slum, basically.
Very practical.
Yes.
That's just a good survival advice.
I mean, most people will run if they hear someone shouting German to begin with. So the dog doesn't even need to get there. Anyway, enough doxing information. Yeah.
I'm searching for every lab owner in the Midwest right now.
Yeah. How about you, David?
My racist dog story. We just had what did we have? We had a German Schnauzer dog too, so maybe that's a bad start.
Furry boy.
And yeah, he just every black person. We had a really nice black mailman that he would just go fucking ape shit over every time. And it was like we always like apologize and say it was for everybody, but it really wasn't. It was just the black guy.
Well, I will. All dogs are racist against mailmen. Like letter carriers are the true hated group among canines.
The mailmen and their lies.
You think about it, it's someone on the mailmen and their lies. It's someone who comes to my house every day, and if I don't bark, they go away. But when I bark at them, they go away every single time. They drop what they're holding and they go away as soon as I bark at them. In a sense, the reason why they hate them so much is because the reaction is exactly what the dog is trying to prompt every single time with the barking.
It's a self-feedback.
What is it they call the Amazon guys? Not Amazon delivery. Amazon. There's another one. There's a special term for them. Amazon. Call them a mailman and they shrug it off, but call them a Amazon Amazon delivery specialist and watch as they wither.
Associate?
No, God.
No. That doesn't work either.
Amazon has a special word for their dudes. It might not even be the delivery guys. It's like the guys in the warehouse.
Are you talking about the wage cages? Like the Wojak with the Amazon worker? I think that's just a wage cagey. That's just yes, the meme with the Wojak and he's like in the Amazon
fulfillment
wage
associate.
Cage.
That's it.
There we go. There we go. We should ask friend of the show Zulu Alitzpa to come on and talk about his time in the Bezos coal mines. Yeah, the wagey and his cagey.
Hey, he broke free. He's no longer on the Amazon plantation.
Yeah, no, he lasted like 3 weeks and then quit because he can't.
Yeah, just like the real Zulu, just like his namesake, he broke free for the white man.
Just like old Shaka. All right, gored by the horns of Bezos.
What was next? So we have dog whistle. Oh, who wants to take a first? I think I shouldn't take first stab at this one, honestly.
All right, some bracing pessimism and the lessons of Eugène Delacroix. So it is the only prize awarded this time was for nonfiction was second place. Which is interesting. It's I presume that they did have other nonfiction submissions that they decided not to They have some objective standard that needs to be crossed before they award, which is smart. And it also means that if you are a nonfiction writer and you're considering writing an essay, Passage Prize 3 is accepting submissions right now, and they would probably love to have some more high-quality stuff for Passage Prize 3 next year.
Yeah, you could be the third place.
or the only one. I'm just third. There's no one else.
Yes, or the only one, potentially. Yeah. So, but this is about, and essentially what Aeneas is getting at here. It's a story about how he does not like the art of Eugene Delacroix, and he opens with a story about how he was told by some volunteer docents
the nice
at the Art
old
Institute
ladies,
of Chicago
quote
when he
unquote.
was a child. The nice old ladies, who would basically walk through and read the plaques at you, and tell you, what this meant and what that meant, and of course they were considered the authoritative answers, and if a child had a competing one, the answer wasn't that you are right and these ones are wrong. It's at best everything subjective.
That was our last defense every time they would get BDFO from him.
Yeah. They would never admit that perhaps there is an objective standard of quality, and that he did not have a better handle on it than other people. Interesting that this is the only one that was awarded, and it got second place. Huh.
No, maybe it's like Metal Gear Solid 5, where Hideo Kojima says the real ending is you, the player. Maybe the real best nonfiction is the story, the real life story of the
experiencing the book. That's it. We won.
Yeah, it's meta.
That's terrible. That's like Time Magazine awarding you, the reader, as Person of the Year.
I'm surprised they haven't done that.
They have done that.
Yeah, when you were a toddler, in Cap's life.
Yeah, when you were a little baby boy. Yeah, the year that selfies were invented. Anyway,
they just did
it was
a
like a
camera
reflective
facing the
cover. Yeah.
It was a reflective printing on the front. It was shit. It was the worst. Anyway,
bravo.
Anyway, this is a stupid Eddie. The point is that so Aeneas goes on, and he basically says that really good traditional visual art, by painting, stopped being a thing in the French Revolution, and his example for an artist that he absolutely hates, who was successful in his own life and is hanging in the Louvre now, is Eugene Delacroix.
Yeah, he dubs him the first modern artist as his example.
Yeah, the first modern artist. And artist of modernity, probably accurate. He was, he was more of a, definitely considered a romantic, and let's see.
Definitely a Jacobin in spirit. Actually, yeah, his father was.
Yeah, no, he was a lefty. He was a lefty. Mm-hmm. But he was Aeneas mentions he was never a starving artist. He was successful his entire career, essentially, and he would kind of follow cultural trends when doing things, and he would take these large commissions and would sometimes execute rather strange things, his particular note is Still Life with Lobster, which was a commission from a wealthy patron, that has a very mixed composition. It's a still life of some hunted game that includes lobsters and pheasants and
it's
a rabbit.
Beeplecore, okay? It's not bad.
It's no. What's there are I will get into that. And then in the background, there's like, people in red jackets, white pants, and black boots on horseback, like they're Englishmen fox hunting, right? And the background is very gray and washed out in the front, and obviously the lobsters are red, so they've been cooked. They've been cooked and then put on right over there on top of this unbutchered rabbit and this unplucked pheasant. So
deeply unappetizing for a painting that's supposed to be
absolutely. So that is Aeneas's criticism, but I absolutely disagree. This painting is not fucking small. Like
it's not about the small. It's about the content.
No, I mean, so what I'm sorry. Hold on. What I'm saying is, so it's 106 centimeters long, so 40-ish inches, right? That is a large painting, and this was supposed to be hanging in the dining room of the patron's home. And that is a fucking flex, because this thing is wild. Like, this is... and you... Like, the thing is that you don't know, but you assume that a wealthy patron who wants this wild painting in his dining room is wanting to flex. So he probably requested something from Delacroix, this famous artist. He requested him that he do something
bizarre,
like this. So I don't entirely think, just because people do that shit, and I'm sure people did that back then. This guy was, checking boxes for patrons. If someone tells you, paint some, rabbits, pheasants, and lobster, and make a hunting scene in the back, okay, your checks don't bounce.
Before furries were invented, this is the best our artists had to rely on, people. Like,
oh my God.
Nowadays, you don't even want to know what they're doing behind closed doors for that commission, the sweet, sweet commission greenbucks.
Yeah.
This was the Olives playing pool of its day.
Yeah. And Aeneas criticizes the color theory of several of these. I'm not entirely certain that I disagree. Particularly, he criticizes the color theory of bathers, which is, he says that it has a very seasick palette, but it's this group of women bathing in a stream in the woods, and the colors are definitely very cool. It is, these blues and these greens and these teals that are sort of mixed here, and they're under these very tall trees that are dominating the upper half of the image. And it seems like a shady, cool grove, like a place which appears to be what's attempted to be conveyed. I don't really think that the palette is unsuitable to the image.
He similarly has a critique of Basket of Flowers, which I just fundamentally disagree with. Like, he describes the flowers as hideous, and the color composition.
Yeah, I mean,
they don't look sickly at all.
Yeah, they're slightly crushed but beautiful.
I didn't really like that painting, but that's because there's like this weird wisteria, like, bower above it that is weirdly shaped and is kind of doing nothing. If you cropped this oil painting,
I'm frantically Googling it right now.
I would enjoy it a lot more. I should mention, I didn't earlier, the way that the images are shared here. There are a couple that are printed, but most of them are done with QR codes and notes to what the code goes to, kind of like Passage did in Unqualified Reservations Volume 1, which is Curtis Yarvin's old blog, of course, that would was written to be read online. So there were a lot of hyperlinks. So what they've done for that, instead of the hyperlinks, is they've put QR codes in the margins and in the footnotes so that you can follow them easily. And they've done that here for the images, and I think that's a really good it's a really good editorial, or a really good way to format these types of things. That I'm glad that they're reusing that.
Yeah, it's a good idea, but you're already using a bunch of visual aid. You're showing paintings. The end of the essay is literally a comparison between Rubin and Delacroix. So the entire collection is filled with paintings. Well, so why all of a sudden use these QR codes?
It would just be too large.
No, there aren't. It's not. Oh, do you mean this particular? You mean the book, not this story?
Yeah. I was saying. It's,
well, I mean, there's lots
here.
of. I mean, there's lots of reasons. Maybe. So number one, these are very large, and you have 2 on a single page. There could have been rights issues with reproducing images of them. There's all sorts of reasons, but these links go to various different places. Some of them are Wikipedia. Some of them are other places where the images are stored, and the rights are just different, right? So there are real reasons why you might want to do
as well, because
like
there's so many. Like, you'd be flipping pages like crazy if you were trying to read it.
Yeah, it helps the flow too. Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, well, yeah. What the thing is, I can understand. Like, okay, if Aeneas was like, okay, I'm going to use this QR code. I'm going to make you chew on what I said. As you get your phone out, you scan it. It's like you use it as purposely as breakers or as a pause. It'll be kind of like,
well, that's just a formatting. Like, that's a formatting thing.
Yeah, but he doesn't really say anything that like creatively or anything that
he hits so many really so briefly. I agree. It is a little bit like, am I really going to? I only searched half of these, to be honest, and I didn't agree with all of them.
I looked.
No,
at all
I
of
did
them.
every. Yeah. I did every. And the thing is, I agree with his critique about anatomy, especially with the Dante painting of Dante and the Pilgrim and on the life raft.
That's the only one I disagree with, except for Chiron. Chiron does
really.
Chiron looks weird, but the people,
the guy in the water.
Yeah, but the people who are in the water, like in that scene in the Inferno, are described as writhing. like that's if you're gonna have goofy anatomy, that is the worst painting to use as an example. Like,
well, yeah, but the guy in the middle in the water, he doesn't look like he's writhing. He just looks misshapen.
I disagree with you, and since we're objectivists here in terms of our values, I am correct, and you are simply wrong. There's no room between the two of these.
Well, to quote the old nice ladies, it's all subjective.
Exactly what the experts say.
And to counter your point about like he was known for his wildness.
So which one are you? So which figure? So there are 5 figures or 6 figures in the water.
Actually, I don't even have. Hold on. Well, yeah. Well, it's the white guy. So you have Virgil on the bottom left, I believe. Recall correctly. I don't have my
Virgil's
phone
in the middle.
Virgil's in the middle, right? So it's a guy. It's the naked white dude in the middle of the water. So you got the raft.
He's like, yeah. Can I get?
Yeah.
I think that anatomy is fine.
You see his body's twisting?
What's misshapen?
Oh, fuck it. I'll
that isn't how you look? I'm like that, but with more hair.
No, he looks too pudgy. It looks like, yet again, it's...
Are you calling me fat?
No, I listen.
Because you're right.
I can see your hip... I can see your hip bone, most likely. If you were to twist like that, you at least see the hip bone.
Okay, I see the hip bone in this image.
Oh, motherfucker.
His ribs are a little low.
I
think that's what it is. His right rib's a little low.
They are a little low. I think I can see that.
It's not terrible, but I do agree.
Yeah.
And his arm length is a little funky. Like, it's one of those... I didn't totally disagree with this one.
Okay, here we are, yes. Okay, so you have the pilgrim with the reef head, with the robes. It's the guy in the center.
No, in the robes with the wreath. That is Virgil.
No. Yeah, Virgil. I meant
Yes.
Virgil. I meant Virgil. Okay, so but you see the woman, who's also oddly pudgy. The guy in the center just seems off.
Why does he have 6 fingers? Is AI art? I'm just fucking with you. Dude, how much of a mind fuck?
Oh, I Googled the wrong one. It's hilarious. It's how you get around rights issues. You just have the AI.
Passage price is just AI generating like duplicates for the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And historians will never know. They can't tell the difference.
We'll never know. In the early 1800s, everyone had 6 fingers, and they were. Yep.
It's what you know. What it's also
evolution.
an angle thing.
And since we've lost all historical references, we believe that everyone's fingers were permanently chopped off in what's called the Night of the Long Knives, and we have no other theories about what that event would have been.
All we know is that Hitler was behind this.
He hated 12-fingered people. And that's how we know he won the war. Okay.
In terms of like the general flow of it, he goes through a series of those, and then he kind of recaps at the end with coming back to present a bit and talking about, now he's an adult, he gets it, and kind of it turns into I don't know what you want to call it, a bit of a pep talk about our own situation. So it takes a bit of a left turn into why it's important to have objective standards in art, and how that guy was a failure in it. I don't know. I went into this. I'll admit I went in a little bit in a negative headspace because I have a one-sided rivalry with this guy for no reason. He wrote an article in Man's World, and I wrote one calling him a silly Billy. So I know his writing style a little bit. And I guess I saw similar issues in this one, in that I felt like he didn't sequentially order his argument in a way that convinced me. We had this opening case of subjective art, but then really the weight of the art of the essay, the vast majority of the time, we're really just focusing on this single French artist, romantic movement. And I just, and talking to him as sort of this genesis point for modern art and everything that goes wrong. And I did not see a strong enough connection there. Like, I do understand that he had, maybe some talent failings, and that he wasn't the best with anatomy. And that he obviously was a functionary at some, indirect way to the power structure, the leftist power structure of his time. But I guess I don't see the gap being bridged between, I guess, his claim of what this guy's role is and what he actually did, beyond being not the most talented artist of his time, but financially successful and commercially, reputationally, critically successful in his era.
Yeah, I really do. I do like some of Delacroix's work. His one of his most recognizable pieces is Liberty Leading the People.
That's the French Revolution picture,
which is
in the picture.
That is the French Revolution painting, and it goes hard. Like that is a very spirited image. And I mean, this is romanticism. Like I should have told Gabe to say this, but the thing about the difference between romanticism and some of the traditionalists is that it's more important to convey the vibe.
It's a literal vibe
right?
check.
Like people who, and if you look at some of the things that were referenced, like Ovid among the Scythians, that is almost impressionistic in some of its execution. I mean, obviously it was not impressionistic in its method, because he didn't go see Ovid amongst the Scythians and look away really quick and do it from memory. But The it's this is a transition period, and that does go to his statement that he was what he considers the first modern artist.
Alongside Byron, he also brings up Byron
just as an influence on Delacroix himself. He doesn't really have any role. Yeah. And I guess what bugged me a bit was this end line from the text. How can Delacroix' career help us to understand the modern predicament of art and culture? ? Wait, isn't that why we're here? And it just goes on to, I don't know. It just doesn't answer the question. I felt so. To me, it was not. It was a lot of heat and salt at this
and very little punch and very little significant punch.
Yeah, and just know what am I supposed to come away from this feeling beyond I believe that we will win, and some interesting history on this character for sure, tinged with some animus towards him. That I felt maybe blinded.
But it appears out of the blue too. It also he's just opened with the Rubens comparison because he ends with comparing a Rubens painting to Delacroix. I think this should have actually been pushed a little closer so you can see at least what his objective perimeter of the good is before you see him ranting against all the negatives, because you can clearly see compared to Rubens. I mean, his version of Christ on the Sea of Galilee is drowned out of color. Galilee. Yeah. See, there you go. You finally got me. You finally got me mispronouncing it. Yeah.
I didn't bother with a couple others. Yeah, so just know that it happened before too.
I do agree with him that the colors are drowned out. My favorite is Rembrandt or Caravaggio, and the contrast of color and of light are very important. Wait, you don't like Caravaggio?
No, you're good. Keep going.
No, never mind.
No, it's Rembrandt. Sorry,
it's Rembrandt. We can say that. Right. We can say that.
Well, yeah, but if you remember Rembrandt, he all his things glow. The coloring, it's all like a gold, slightly brownish light. The lighting in Delacroix is kind of atrocious. If you look at the Christ on the Sea in comparison to Delacroix, his colors are all drowned out. The Rubens Christ on the Sea is much more evocative. You feel a lot more of the energy. Well, the first one, it's like a Zack Snyder adaptation. The colors are all drowned out, basically. It's a Zack Snyder film filter. That's the greatest insult you can give to him. The colors drowned out. So I do agree with him on the color. What are you going to defend his Christ on the Sea, Cap?
Yeah, I think I think I prefer the movement of that one more.
Really, I don't get the sense of kineticism on the
yeah. I mean the water and the light coming through the storm clouds, the whipping of the sails. I think you have almost exactly the same motion in the Rubens, but I think it's better executed in the Delacroix. Just standing up against them in this printing, maybe if I was standing in front of them, I would feel differently. But
on the details of the ocean, you're right. You see a lot more details of the ocean with Delacroix. But in terms of the visceral effect on the viewer, I'm just going to say reader, the viewer, you feel a lot more of the drama. You feel the motion with Rubens, unlike you feel more distant with Delacroix.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't think I agree with that.
Do you feel any? My favorite of all these pieces of Delacroix, other than the Revolution, obviously, which is the most famous one, is the one about the dying orgy of the opposite king. Right, that was supposed to be a sexy bad boy thing, right? Because it's ooh, slaves, ooh, concubines,
Sardana Palace.
Yeah, but the thing is, that was critically panned. So his whole bad boy aesthetic, apparently he pushed too far with it. And I actually looked it up. I looked it up separately from Aeneas's opinion. And apparently it was actually critically panned at its time. And that was kind of my favorite, because that was when he's actually leaned in to this bad boy sex orgy death.
Well, you're also a bit of a gooner. So.
Well, yes, Delacroix was a gooner. Right? Freedom literally has her tits out in the French Revolution, right?
He was French. How could he not be?
So,
You mean Liberty, but yeah. I mean, I see what you mean.
So his literary aesthetic, his calling card, which is supposed to be like a bad boy kind of thing, that's the one that gets panned. So I could definitely see Aeneas pulling up hey, he did this for political connections, or it was just a fad at the time. I can definitely see some versions of that, especially with the like him getting such a cartoonish amount of francs for the flower painting.
So this would be the point at which we say, and it's tough to know this without a more precise like historiography. But this is where it's a bit Beeple-core when we're talking about Sardanapalus, or let's see the
Greek
you're
one?
Right, that is kind of Beeple-core.
The massacre at Chios, because these are like the
pulp culture references of their day,
the trending stories of the time. Yeah. So Byron dies, immediately paint an image from a play, from Byron's play, and this military event just happened. People are talking about it. Of course, I'll plot, and I will say the narrative that is in here about Delacroix using basically a painting he was working on and remixing it really quick to suit the trend. Totally believable, because you could see how that might have started as some sort of plague image, and been reworked to be an attack from Ottomans.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the images, like some portions of it are executed in completely different levels of detail, and
here's my issue with it. Like how revolutionary much of a change is that? Like, I understand if the thesis of the article, if what we're trying to prove and get down to is that this guy was kind of a trend chasing douche, or he sucked, a bit of a hack. Like, that's okay. Yeah. Whatever. One artist in history was a hack, and he was like, yes, critically successful and is now historically respected. Blah blah blah. But is that a sea change from any past artist or any future artist? Like, I feel like it's a dime a dozen that these artists, going back to ancient Roman times or any time that you have contemporary influences or references. Sometimes even literally you're appealing to your sponsor by name. In the writing.
Yeah,
king is God.
I guess we're probably not gonna cover Petronius's Satyricon,
Yes.
But yeah.
Anyway, that's my point.
If you view the essay itself, it doesn't. It's the actual. Rather than arguing the point of the essay, structurally, the actual essay as an essay itself is just not strong.
I think it just doesn't match argument with what it's trying to prove. So
also, just feels very out of the blue. Like there's a certain momentum to this. This is the only bad editing choice, is to put the essay here just randomly, because there's a certain rhythm that goes on as you read this text, and like you expect something, but you just hear it has nothing to do with the theme of rewilding. At least not really. This is kind of like a regular trad rant about art, kind of.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about it. And it reference a theme. It is a little bit.
It's just literally return to discipline, artist man.
I mean, I get it. I see it in the longhouse sense of the nice old ladies. But yeah, I don't entirely agree with the. Yeah, I mean, in terms of theming, it doesn't fit this as much as it seems like it might have fit number one more. Yeah,
for me, it's just a meh of an essay. I don't hate it, I don't like it, but I'm not going to remember it.
I find this topic interesting, and if it was covered in a slightly longer format, I think I could be won over on this.
Same. It's a cool topic.
Agreed.
But it was if like I almost feel like if he had really drilled down on an analysis of like 2 paintings, this would have been a ton stronger. You know what I'm saying?
It's trying to go through this overall
rather than an extremely breezy survey. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I see why this is relevant to the overall project.
I mean, one good positive is that it puts an image of Delacroix, if he was alive today. You know for a fact, instead of Ottomans, he would have done something like with the Ukraine War.
Oh my god, which yes, would be such a shit.
Byron,
deeply cringe.
Dude,
yeah.
Dude, Byron would be like totally one of those like Redditors who do like live streams on the front lines of the Ukraine. Ends up dying from probably like a gay STD, and then in his memory, Delacroix.
Many people from the past would just be completely eaten and destroyed by modern society. It is very safe to say, good and bad people would have had all of their great works never come to anything because they, would just spend all of their time shit posting on Twitter.
Benjamin Franklin never leaves the goon cave. Like, what happens then? What are we gonna do?
Oh no.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Joyce never leaves the gas chaser subreddit.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Proust just posts 10,000 images a day to Instagram.
Oh no,
desperately attempting not to forget anything.
No, you know for a fact he has a Pinterest role. I guarantee he'll be a Pinterester. Yeah, peak homosexual.
I think unfair to old Marcel. Although he definitely would have like a Madeline's. I have to try.
No. You know what he will be? He'll be a Yelper. You know it's true. You know for a fact he'll be like most Reddit like.
He just goes to every cookie shop.
Cafes. He nitpicks everything. He would be a foodie. He would be like a cafe foodie.
Okay, I'm pushing the button.
All right.
What's next? Portals by Shimmy. Third in art. Actually, I don't even know. What page is this on? I lost my place.
Yeah, all the art winners are all the art winners are really good, actually. I have no complaints about any of the art ones.
This one. Okay. Portals. And this one has a nice summary. In the summary, it just talks about the strength of worth being very dreamlike, symbology, sort of this mysterious air to it. And just, I guess, a brief description of it. The first image is just a black mask-like face on it.
It's like a
death mask,
an ebony mask behind it could be something like that.
Yeah, cool.
Could be easily be interpreted as a death mask. Sort of floating over a background that has extremely vibrant colors.
Very hot colors.
Purples, blues, red, yellow, and on a yellow field. And the light of the yellow is pretty strongly shining off of the contours of this mask.
Very angled, and then the next one is a screaming face, someone sort of peeling their face. Looks like a robotic face underneath, kind of like just a terrified scream on a black field behind it. There's a black.
But if you look at the eyes,
and the pupils are outlined with an Ouroboros.
And the center might be Earth because I see blue and green. Some line.
Yeah, I think that's true. I actually hadn't seen that before. I hadn't noticed that before, but you're very correct. Yeah, it does look like a tiny Earth.
What's up with the teeth?
In the
I love the teeth. The teeth is a nice
supposed to be like
I love
gems or
chipped.
steel. I can't tell.
I think they're supposed to be chipped metal.
We could go either direction on that one.
Yeah, I love how raw it is.
Yeah, very horror-ish.
Yeah, I mean it's extremely visceral. Just completely peeling his face off.
And the viscerality makes you want to look away or not pay attention to it, so you can easily miss the eye stuff, which is the most thematically interesting part. The whole portal theme.
Yeah, I didn't even know it
because I was scratching my head like, what the fuck? Like, how does this do with portals? and then you actually look close, like
And then next up, and then the other two portions of it are there's a man in a robe, almost like a monk robe, just in this dark, burnt down forest with a sun above, and then he has over his chest or within his chest some kind of circular gate into a clear, cloudy sky.
So, sorry, I should say, and this is maybe an organizational thing that would have been helpful in on these pages. So the first one, with the mask, is called Circles. The second one is called Programmed. The one with
robot face,
with the unfortunate gentleman peeling his face.
With the Ouroboros loading screen
Yes.
on his eyes, yeah.
Yes. The one you are describing now is Portals. Yes.
Interesting. So is it?
This is easily the most dreamlike one.
Yeah. The entire thing is kind of a dream and or nightmare vibe.
In terms of Portals, I will say I feel like maybe it was printed a little dark because the face of the man, it appears to be kind of rudimentary at first glance, but I mean, I had to get a fairly bright lamp, and it is quite detailed. His face is quite detailed, and so and as are his hands. So I'm not sure what the original scale was of these things, but yeah, it's a little bit hard to like appreciate it, that particular
Oh
printing.
yeah, his eyes seem to be
here.
a bit of a hazel,
So
or like a lighter color. Actually,
yeah.
You're right.
The next one is called Bird.
Just a bird. That's all there is to it.
It's called it is a little sparrow sitting on a branch with some hazy sort of, mountain in the back.
With a completely hollow eye. There's like nothing.
Do you read that as hollow, or do you think
Black
that it's
bird eye? I just saw it as an eye, but you might be right.
Yeah.
With
it's just a normal bird eye?
No, it's just because you see all the imagery going forth. You got the death mask, you got the Terminator head, you get the bird, and it's the whole point is surrealism. And even the painting after this has something evocative. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be it's supposed to be meta-ironic. We're tricking you to thinking it's deep, in reality it's nothing. But he's so detailed. Like you even said, you had to literally get a lamp in order to see the details of the last guy's eyes. To have a bird have absolutely nothing. A complete, no indication of anything, not even an eyeball, nothing. Just complete black circle. I think it's Portal-esque. Especially since the whole series is named Portals.
Yeah, you might be right. I'm like squinting. I can't see any details, and maybe that is the intended, the deep lore.
So there's a subtle sense of creepiness to it.
And then the final one is a 2-page spread where the left page is entirely black and the right page is
an astronaut.
It almost looks like maybe a cosmonaut, because he's got the tight skull cap on and the fully clear dome over his head, and so you can sort of see this just line where you would be looking at a very clean glass bubble helmet on edge, right? So it's utterly featureless. Other than that, you can sort of see the rim just above his chin, coming up his jaw, and his eyes are down,
or just straight up closed.
His eyes, they're closed. His eyes are closed, but the image of the sort of the attention of the person is cast down and to the left. He's got a slightly aquiline nose, and his lips are parted. Like you could imagine that he was praying.
Wait, actually, he might be looking at the sun, because look at the shading on his forehead, all around his nose. There's a light source in the painting.
I thought he was looking downward, but yeah.
Yeah, you can't look at the sun.
Do you think he's just averting? So it's the sun's above, and he's averting
his eyes
it by looking down.
Yeah, I mean, because look at the shading in his skin, right? Everything is like dim until you see the lining from his forehead down his nose to his lips. There's something emitting light.
Yeah, but it is above him and out of where he's. Yeah,
looking. We don't see it.
So the light would be coming from the upper left, and he is looking to the lower left.
Yeah.
So
that's actually a nice touch.
This one or Circles, the first one, are probably my favorite in this series. I feel like I said, I feel like maybe I would want to see. Actually, I think I recall Shimmy having posted full resolution copies of these on his
at least the
Twitter
first
page.
one, at least the Death Mask one.
That's my favorite.
He did.
Shimmy also had a good story in Double Dealer 10, and he's doing the covers for the Double Dealer magazines.
Oh, we covered this guy before.
Just his art in issue
he did the
9.
Yeah, just his art.
Oh, his cover was
Double
great.
Dealer 10. Yeah. And the new one also looks good. I hope that they add my biggest complaint about Double Dealer 10 is actually that they don't have the title and number on the spine of it. The spine is just white, which is it's like a known issue with some of the on demand printing things. If you don't get the book to the right dimensions, then they don't let you put the title on the spine, which is a nightmare. it just sucks so bad. So hope they do that. Notes
Hudson Bros.
Notes to the Double Dealer boys if you're listening.
The Double Dealer dudes. The Triple Ds.
Double Dealer 11, the cover looks real good. They just closed submissions on that, so that'll be out soon. And the cover also by Shimmy looks very nice. So all right. So we've covered all the prize winners. We are unfortunately not able, based on it taking us 4 hours of recording, to do 20% of the book straight through. Before, we're not able to cover everybody, but we do want to cover one more of the longer stories that is by 0 HP Lovecraft and is called In Hyperbolic Geometry, Two Parallel Lines Are Taken in One Direction and Diverge in the Other.
Yeah, the only other story to have completely black pages next to Lovecraft.
Yeah, next to the prize winner. And I like that. I like the mixing it up. It gives the printing a lot of texture.
Oh, flavor, yeah.
So David, do you want to handle this one?
Sure. So it starts out. It's hits a little close to home with our protagonist reaching out to his 5 subscribers or something like that on his future social media app.
No, he's got 20. He's got 4 times as many.
We got to catch it up to you, boys.
Well, this takes place in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
So
who knows? This could be us someday. He's reaching out. So basically, the whole story is told as him doing like a vlog or a blog to his crew, to his followers, and he's telling the story of the time he went to. What's the name of it? He went
Birthright.
Thank you. Basically, in this future, everyone's plugged into the internet at all times. It's embedded into your body. You have sort of super sensory abilities based on the internet. You can immediately, connect to it, envision it, be aware of things. It's basically like Feed. It reminded me a lot of Feed in a good way for anyone that's read that. And so he's going on he's recounting this trip he took as a 2015, I believe, to Birthright to visit his grandfather. And Birthright is this, no cell phones, everyone just having a good time.
That's not true. that.
What's not true?
No, it's not no cell phones.
Well, no, I'm doing the meme.
The whole point is that the whole point is cell phones are retro.
I know.
They're considered
no
trash.
cell phones is a meme. Like, oh, look at this picture. No cell phones. Everyone just having a good time.
Okay.
Sorry. I should have put an asterisk when I'm doing a meme reference. But basically, it's like LARPing is like year 2000.
Listen, please be patient with us, Dave. We have autism.
LARPing is the year 2020. That is, the year 2020 if there weren't lockdowns. LARPing is 2019 is what it is. Because it's very clear that they're using smartphones.
Well, there are cell phones. I apologize for the meme that triggered you guys. Moral of the story: you walk in, they deactivate your your body's connection,
your love AI,
to the broader internet, and instead you're a normal human being. Yes, and there is some technology, and there's sort of this there's like a retro diner, and people they hunt and they fish, whereas in the standard society nobody does those things. Everyone's completely in the matrix and sort of gaming on their couch and cooming and all that. So he his parents they have dinner. His parents then leave him to have some quiet time with his grandfather. They go fishing. They sort of just kind of visit. I'm trying to think if there's any like major plot points there, and then eventually they end. Like, let me know if there was, guys. But then they move on to visit his friend's house, where there's a get together of a couple of the other people, other Birthright folks.
Well, he talks about the only memory that the only memory he's regularly relived because he's able to record his memories via his implants is fishing with his grandfather and having a
tasty fishy treat.
A fish, a meal cooked on the beach, basically by his grandfather from scratch. Yeah, not canned
or soy food or whatever. There's an interesting talk too about he's on the train within Birthright and he's like experiencing boredom for the first time.
Boredom,
yeah, which I thought was really good. And also, it actually hit a little close to home in terms of with cell phones. Like we're so desensitized to not having anything to do. And he talks about how it's sort of this uncomfortable, but then it kind of became interesting in its own way, and he learned to enjoy it. Okay, so anyway, that happens. He basically has this day or two just visiting, and then they go to the friend. I think is it Duncan? Was it Duncan's house? They go to this friend's house. There's having like a card night type situation. And then
Duncan and Hauser.
Okay, and then he goes up to the attic to look at some of the antiques they had. I can't remember what specifically. There was a specific like important item he found.
Portal guns.
Well, did he
a collection of portal guns?
He actually found the portal guns. He uncovered it. Okay,
yes.
And a fight breaks out, and that's how the portal guns get introduced. The one guy is accused of cheating. They get in they argue, and then it turns into a portal gun fight in the front yard, where it's almost like a formal duel. And there's this whole sort of slightly autistic description, Sanderson-esque description of how portal guns are used, and people like can throw.
No, I thought that was actually pretty neat. You kind of have to in this kind of to get any sense of.
There's it's a very, very classic sci-fi of what if I had a like very Silver Age sci-fi, right? Like what if I had this thing that could do these crazy manipulations of the world, but I have but I have this amount of time to explain what it does, so I have to have a description.
And plus, he has to have a description because he uses the description as a metaphor for the ending telos of the piece itself.
Yes, yeah, he has to.
See, actually, my issue, I'm getting a little bit ahead, but my only issue with this piece is it felt like the guns came out of nowhere. Like it felt like the broader sci-fi-ness of it was much more. It was like Feed, again, for anyone that's read that one. It's like our society, except it has this very advanced software,
Neuralink,
yeah, exactly, and AI stuff going on. But then also now we have like super physics access like in everyone's house. It's like, whoa, that's crazy. And then the next phase is this Tigers edition. Go ahead, Yap. Did you have a?
Well, okay. So I disagree. This is basically like William Gibson's Sprawl level technology, right? I don't know if you've read the Sprawl trilogy. But you have or something like Ghost in the Shell, where you have these extensive neurological implants that allow you to do things that are significantly beyond current human abilities, and including things like the protagonist referenced several times, turning your body over to be essentially driven by AI,
and they just you autopilot.
Either when that's like you going to a place, or when you need to accomplish a task that you don't know how to do. Like I don't know how to actually cook, but I want to make a fucking enchilada, so I'm gonna tell the AI to guide my hands and make me an enchilada.
I'll just let love do
it. While my body's doing that, I'm like, my consciousness is in cyberspace, and I'm like playing a game with people that exist somewhere else, probably, that I've never seen in my physical life. So
I completely follow that. For me, the gap is super physics. We jumped from that, which is like kind of plausible in a crazy way, to this is like a little bit of a Star Trek level jump, which I just felt like wasn't foreshadowed.
Oh, so you're just saying you have wormholes that are so easy to generate that you can use them as bullets.
To me, I was like, whoa! I didn't realize we were like in this story. That was like, okay, I got to recalibrate where I am. Totally at the 3/4 mark of the story.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, Dave, but that's a Brandon Sanderson-esque critique. You're trying to basically
Sanderson
be
bros.
Reddit rules. I'm sorry, it is. The point is not the rules.
I'm sorry, what are the rules of your magic system?
Yes, you're doing that right now.
But then we're told the rules of this magic system in a lot of detail. I love this story, so I hope this doesn't come across too negative. That's my one critique of it, is it's like it's like that should have been foreshadowed much earlier, or it could have been toned down to like something slightly less like wildly sci-fi.
No, the ending is weak overall. I do agree with you, but I agree with you for thematic reasons, not necessarily sci-fi reasons.
Okay. Oh, we'll go ahead. Get back. Pop off, King. What's your anti-Sanderson?
Well, so hold on. We got
to finish the summary.
So hold on.
All
Got to finish the summary. All right. So they have these guns that shoot wormholes, and there is this talk about how you could just shoot the wormhole, and the projectile comes in two parts.
It's Portal
basically.
We played Portal.
Yeah. So basically, you could shoot someone in the chest with it and just like get I think he literally says a cylinder of their innards, which is great image. But typically, the way that it was considered sportsmanlike or artful to fight with a portal gun was to create the portals at strange angles to cause hazards or to kill your opponent with objects.
Or ragdoll them.
Yeah, it's like you're playing Tribes.
Or you launch them. Yeah, you put two portals above each other so that they reach terminal velocity, and then move one of the portals to like an incline so that you throw them 800 feet in the air or something, right? So, and so these two guys who are having a duel end up placing portals all over the place, which are essentially two portals with a chunk of earth or a piece of wood or whatever falling in and out of it, so that they're, if you were standing next to it, it would be this high velocity piece of earth or what have you, constantly rising and sinking into the ground and coming out somewhere else. So just this sort of minefield of these portals. And they fight for hours and hours, and eventually one of them, doesn't really matter which one, is victorious. And the family is all sworn to secrecy, or the friends and he and his grandfather are all sworn to secrecy. And he feels like he's in on the con, when really what it is that his grandfather doesn't want to get in trouble with his parents, with the kid's parents. So for bringing him into this like dangerous and unhinged situation, right? Go to a party and just have a
murdered in the front yard
for hours.
Now, Billy, don't tell your mom and dad.
Don't tell your mom and dad that granddad's buddy got killed at this party.
And then there's the weird thing with the tiger. I apologize, I read this like a month ago, but there's the
tiger thing felt half-assed.
Yeah, there's the comment that the gun used to belong to someone else named Thomas Easton.
Okay, so the tigers make sense thematically, but it would have been nice if there was a little more build up to this type of thing. So essentially, there were these two rival, ruffians who were both noted portal gun users. And they were rivals because one was named Eaton and one was named Easton. And they basically, like, no one could tell them apart, and they both had pretty similar MOs. And they wanted identity. They wanted distinct identities. And apparently they never fought. But the grandfather's friend, who was a wealthy person and had a collection of these weapons, apparently had both of their weapons. And the two guns that were selected were one was owned by one and one was owned by the other. And what the protagonist is surmising is that these weapons had malware installed in them, and the malware is called are called Tigers. And essentially, it's
like a personality imprint,
artificial intelligence implant that the user would put in the weapon, and to basically like take over the actions of someone holding the weapon. So Easton and Eaton uploaded their consciousnesses to their guns, and when this stupid argument escalated to the point of having a duel, these two guys, despite never having used a portal gun before, ended up doing this, massive high skill ceiling battle for hours on end until one of them
literally
was
possessed
victorious.
at that point by these AIs.
Yeah, so the guns were driving their bodies, just like the safe AI, like the love AI, would guide the body of someone who wanted to cook a delicious Chinese meal, but had never held a wok in their life. A succulent Chinese meal, but had never held a wok in their life. So, and the sort of that basically takes us to the end. To the end of the recollection of events from the protagonist, and the protagonist goes on to conclude some thoughts about it. So what was it that you were upset about with Tiger's conceptual?
Me or Gabe? Gabe was about to pop off. Oh, me?
You had a problem with with the tigers. Gabe doesn't like
I suspect we're similar. Well, we'll see. Mine was that, one, it wasn't teased as a concept earlier. Two, is that Eaton and Easton, I don't recall them coming up until after the fact. So again, it's like...
Oh, Oodle Easton is set up in the first page. That's the main hook, quote-unquote, of the story.
So he...
is the criminal known as Easton.
Okay, maybe I just forgot that part. But to me, I was like, I don't know. It just kind of lost me because it was like, okay, so it just... Conceptually, I understand thematically it playing into this idea of the AI taking control and all that. But then... I don't know. I did maybe I just missed that earlier reference, and that's what the gap was. But I was just like, who the fuck are these two guys, and like, why do they matter? Why are they part of this, or why weren't they part of it earlier? It felt like there was like a really, really hard divide between the first half or so, and then the party, and like around when the fight breaks out. It's like before that, it's very much. Like, it's just about the idea of the AI. It's just about the idea of, these Neuralinks and what life is like. And then at that point, it switches really hard into this. I don't know. The physics, and all of a sudden we're throwing in these new ideas of tigers, which we hadn't had a sense of, or something similar to a tiger. I don't know. It just felt like there was like two or three really big ideas just thrown in. And it's like, well, I feel like we had this other set of our ideas already built up, and tigers could totally integrate into that, but it just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't quite jive well. Like I said, I really like this story. So, as usual, I'm coming across as I feel like more negative than I feel. But the ending was the weak point, and I feel like the first half I thought was like gold, and then it got like a little bit whatever with the gunfight, and then the end. But go ahead, Gabe. What was your beef with the end?
Oh, I will actually 100% concur with you on this. He references Easton. The main hook is he's telling the subscribers to his YouTube channel that you may know the horrible crimes of Udall Easton,
or some sort of other story time. Social media.
The NFT YouTube channel, like is on the blockchain. No, he's on Urbit, right? He's obviously on Urbit.
This is obviously happening on
the internet
Urbit,
of the future, right? So he's telling his Urbit fans about, I know the secret of the lurid life logs of Udall Easton, the guy whose tiger spirit owns one of the portal guns, and then he uses that as a hook to go about his time in Birthright. And Udall Easton doesn't get referenced all the way into the end. So this main story, all this, he wanted to get to the main meat of the story, which is the protagonist and the kind of a discursive essay on experience, his experience with his grandfather, and experience on itself, and a simulacrum on a simulacrum. Because he even says that he is a kindred spirit of his grandpa, because they're both basically coping with existence itself, really. His father's trad coping in this literally artificial 1950s town, which he himself never experienced because of the aesthetics of the diner and everything.
Right. Yeah, it's kitsch on kitsch.
Yeah, it's kitsch. Yeah. The protagonist, he's living on like literally mental IV drips of experience itself. Experience itself, existence itself, is a technological IV drip. But his grandpa is basically an open air retirement home. It's both of these are living deeply sad existences. So that's the meat of the story. But HP is like, okay, fuck. I need like a hook. I need some narrative justification. I can't just have a day in the life of this dystopian Brave New World sci-fi story. Oh, I know. I'll use the criminal hook. And so there is a little U-shaped hook to the story, and then he has to tie it back to the Easton thing in the end. But he kind of saves it. He almost saves it by using the mechanics of the portal gun as a metaphor for the human soul, which the portal is literally nothingness, and the human soul is nothingness. And in that void, the old spirits of the old gods and all these romantic-esque deities of spirit and belief can come right in and fill in that void. So he kind of justifies it, but it doesn't land nearly enough. There's not enough connected tissue to the end. The sci-fi metaphor does not connect to the actual him experiencing experience for the first time, really. The tissue between the ending and the actual meat of the story does not connect very well. So, 100% I do agree with Dave here. The Tiger thing had potential, but honestly, I would cut out everything with the Easton Gang for the most part. He could find some other way to use the portal metaphor. I think the whole criminal gangster thing was kind of tedious or meaningless, really.
I enjoyed this one. I get the, there's the whole of sometimes the reality that you experience is as much about the things you forget as the things
that's
you
a major
experience. Yeah, and that maybe the having absolute perfect attentiveness to all things at all times is not the same, qualitatively as living as a baseline human, or having a coherent or having a coherent identity, right? So they have people in this enhanced neurology have identities that are very concrete, like they're specifically quantifiable, in the sense that they can be uploaded, they can be substituted, they can be projected, they can be overwritten, but they're quantitative, like they're understandable in very concrete terms. The people living in Birthright are qualitatively composed. They have one set of possible experiences. They are locked into their bodies. They have to, when he discusses crime, he says that, crime is a thing that happens in Birthright because you could just do it any time. Whereas outside of Birthright, there are, there's crime software running.
The very potentialities of violence is non-existent.
Yes. Yeah. So people are both locked into the reality of it and the consequences of it. And so there's a significant qualitative distinction between those styles of life. And maybe the center of awareness that an unenhanced person has, in being present like a person is in Birthright is not inferior to the enhanced method. And this is coming from, a person who, lives like a robot, basically. So, but I will say that there's also there are a couple other,
there's plenty of wrinkles in this.
At one point, yeah, at one point there are a lot of there's this is a very textured story. So at one point they talk about the smartphones and how when your body is being driven by artificial intelligence, what they call love, you look alert and attentive to your surroundings. So a person who is looking at a cell phone looks like a zoned out zombie.
Yeah, that was a really clever scene. I love that quite one.
Yeah, but it's also fair to say that this is being written by someone who is among the most very online people.
The Cthulian depths of online.
Yeah, I mean, Zero HP Lovecraft is unbelievably online person.
Just like me, for real.
So, for real. And so I can't help but detect a bit of self-criticism there, at least. And it's clear that even though Birthright is, even though they're 2019 Amish, they're more free by degrees. There's also many important ways in which they too are locked into this.
Well, and Zero HP
system.
is also a techno-utopian to some extent. So I wonder how that colors his vision, in that he's shared. I've seen him share the techno-utopian guide and all that stuff. Like
True.
I'm not.
Techno-optimist.
Oh, optimist. Thank you. Yeah, utopian would be an insult, as oversimplification. I guess that might be what I would call that.
He has swallowed every black pill that is required in realizing this, because he's fully aware of the eventualities of this.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
I mean, no. Well, I wanted to say basically, Cap's theory is 100% correct, even by the text. I mean, there's a lot of great quotes here. I mean, there's a short one just randomly out of the blue. I was totally earthbound, totally trapped. By the way, did you know love is the English word for AI? And it's never brought up again. We never have an explanation why randomly in this world love is the English word for AI. When AI is the English word for artificial intelligence. Like, it's just there's plenty of these little wrinkles, and like you have the little bit of humor, the slightly Borgesian humor with the Easton and Eston, and they keep on getting their names confused, and so there's a bunch of surrealism. You see his love of Borges kind of peeking through here a little bit, and even with the title, two parallel lines are taking in one direction and diverging the other. Well, we always has reference to both A, portals, right, which is how portals pseudo work in the story, and B, the two protagonists, right, the protagonist and the grandfather, who is basically a deuteragonist in this. He's possessed by an AI where he literally can't walk. Every second step, he feels the literal physical pressure of walking for the first time, and it feels horrible. This guy can't even walk. But on the other side of his grandfather, he can cook fried chicken and experience it for the first time, but he's basically living under the protection of basically kind of like a demiurge. Like this Eden he's made for himself in Birthright. He even says, Birthright is as fictitious as any Neuralink dream. It's only wrought from different materials. That's all. And he constantly cites Schopenhauer. And the Schopenhauer quote about how life, dreams and life are both from the same book. But the protagonist flips it around, where dreams are now basically boring. They're rigorous. The dreams are rigorous and they're detailed. Because the AI now and the technology now, you can replay your dreams, you can create your own dreams. It's 100% tailored to your experience. There's no sense of the divine sending you mixed, weird messages or the unconscious. Both Freud and God are dead. And now it's just basically DALL-E, ChatGPT generated images in your brain. And now it's the real life. It's the ostensibly real world that has now the negligent shadow on the wall, and that you had to interpret and kind of play with. The weird world is what's actually interesting now. Eating fried chicken made by some dude in a pot. Like, that's weird. Eating fish and actually being bored. He is tortured by fishing. But the only time he ever replays any of these memories, even though he hates replaying memories, he even says that he's a romantic because he likes to store it in the fleshy parts, quote unquote, is eating the fish. Right, because it's such a strange experience for him to actually wait 3 hours to get a tug on a rope and finally eat what's tugging at the rope. And to have one quote, to have one citation of a quote, I think this quote here basically confirms Cap's thesis of this. This is a digression, but I wish to advance a radical thesis. Without such a machine, there is no whole or coherent self. Man, in his primitive state, is only a hodgepodge of innumerable possible states of consciousness with little to connect them beyond a rough expectation that it may occur again in an imprecise way. This is what strikes me about the people in Birthright. They live their lives as if underwater, seeing and hearing everything through distortions of merely mammalian memory. Perhaps I'm too romantic, but that's why I prefer to store and relate these memories the old-fashioned way, so that it can stay in Birthright where I hold them. So you see, this little paragraph. It's not a digression. It's actually the point of the story. Because if you take this paragraph and you take the ending paragraph of the story, basically line up together perfectly. This is the actual connecting tissue of the ending, is that human is a void. Basically, we've reached the end point where the trad route does expose man as a void, and the hyper-technological route exposes man as a complete other void. And it is this void that we fill up with mysticism and the sense of the beyond. We basically excavated ourselves to such a radical degree that we finally realized that we were just a bunch of holes, a bunch of portals, if you will. So that's basically the main point of the story in this quote-unquote digression.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And I love the exploration of it. I thought it was very well done.
It's very well good. It's basically just very well good. Yeah, fuck you. Gabe. All right.
Yeah, we need a quote for the end of the episode. We need Gabe to pop off.
Listen, when Zero HP releases his collection of short stories, that's my blurb. Yeah, very well good. But for real, in all seriousness, it's a fictionalized essay in the best way possible. It basically is just an essay, but it's a beautifully fictionalized essay.
I will also say this really reminded me of a Robert Heinlein short story called Coventry, where there's essentially this retrograde society that has defected with the consent of the broader culture into a non-modern way of living. That one is much more actiony. But
yeah, Heinlein was not known for his subtlety. Eh?
Yeah, it's Heinlein contained multitudes, I will say. One day maybe we'll do a retrospective into some older sci-fi stuff, and we can talk about Barnum's Freehold, the Heinlein novel they don't mention.
Well, is it even more Coomery than Stranger in the Strange World?
No, it includes white slavery.
Sign me up. Let's do it in the gore
Let's go.
month of.
No, let's do it for Black History Month.
Maybe that and Black Earth.
Oh Lord.
Okay.
Oh God.
Sorry. Do you have any last thought, Gabe? Although I think we got this one.
Yeah, I would just like to say literally the last line, just to really hammer it home. A mind has a mass of zero, not as an infinitesimal mass. I mean a true zero. Give it enough time. A mind is a portal through which all possible mental states must pass. But in birthright, unanchored by the Neuralink device, the self, the soul, the mind becomes a wild place where gods and other things may still come and go. And so this last line kind of thematically justifies the tiger thing. The tiger is the metaphor for the need to rewild. Literally, again, it's an animal, right? So the need to rewild. Just like the love AI may be a...
You are right.
Yes, while the love AI right. may be literally the chthonic mother, literally the longhouse. Like love literally is this insipid, maternal nanny state, controls every action, while the tiger, the spirits of the old world, of the need to duel and fight over poker cards. Only in this world of birthright, when you realize and accept, because reason why you go to birthright is you accept that man is a zero. And only when you accept this, you kind of let yourself be filled. You let yourself basically be filled with poltergeists in a very focused way. He's talking about this. You literally let yourself be possessed, where gods and other things, everything else, can come and possess you. So that line, I always thought the last paragraph was actually quite good. It's just the overall narrative, the crunchy plot stuff ruins the narrative ending to a certain degree. But the thematic ending is really good.
Yeah, I wouldn't say ruined, but I hopefully I didn't come across too negative. But yeah. That was my only quarrel. I love the themes, and I agree with everything you guys were saying in regards to the comparisons between the two worlds. All right, bzz, 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 bzz. That took a while. All right, but that concludes our planned coverage items. One quick shout out, and if you guys have one or two you want to just name drop something you really liked, or if you want to just burn someone, say something you hated. Appendix N by Gabe Mamola. Me and Gabe were chatting before the start, before you hopped on, Cap. I really like this one. A little cheeky. I like the twist, and just sort of just a good one. I don't know if you guys had anything you want to just give a shout out to besides that.
Yeah, I think this works as a comedy a little bit more because the comedy comes abruptly because the story begins very seriously.
Also the author of Hyperbolic Geometry.
That's why Oh yes, that ties in very well.
Double feature, baby.
Yeah, this one was very great. I prefer this because there's much more meat in terms of humor, in terms of meaning, and the punchline actually is hilarious when he finally compares this weird Dark Soul boss painting to a Wojak. And you can't unsee it afterwards. That one actually got me a genuine laugh out of me. Well, I have two. Real quick is Redemption by Paul Schmidt. I don't know the last name is Schmidt. Hold on. Redemption by, I wish they had it at the end, Alan Schmidt. Very, very good family drama. Very good family drama story. Basically based world version, if y'all remember the movie Gran Torino. It's literally a base world version of Gran Torino about basically the ethnic cleansing of Poles in Detroit. Very good dialogue, a very good family drama. It hits you in the feels. Very tight and just beautifully constructed. If any films were going to be made from the Passage Prize, I actually think this would make a very good, tight family drama film. It's basically a script, a very good script. And I thought it was fantastically pulled off. And the last fiction story, the one that takes place in France, is just a very cozy, frolicking, fun story. And his name is...
You mean Dylan T. Price's How to Break a Donkey in Provence? Yes, How to Break a Donkey in Provence. Thank you for that. Were you going to choose that one too? Yeah, that was... Yeah, no, I mean, I love it. It's, especially at the ending,
shooting macaroons,
where they're just shooting macaroons, and the donkey is,
dude. And Rufin is trying to get him to kill.
Nonplussed,
dude. Yeah. Rufin is literally me. Yeah. I love Rufin so much. The dialogue between the two is just fantastic. He's just trying to drink wine, eat macaroons, and try to get his American best friend to kill his lover, just so he can get his brother out of the psych ward finally. Instead of bitching and moaning while he's trying to eat. It's a hilarious, cozy, it's a romp. And the thing is, the writing style is very unique compared to the rest. Well, because, Schmidt's story, the last 2 or 3 stories post H.P. Lovecraft are basically conventional prose styles. Well, the prose style here is very frolicky. It's very kinetic. It's very... what do you say? Off kilter? There's a lot more momentum to this prose style.
It might be the most dialogue heavy of all of the stories in this entire collection.
It is.
The dialogue is perfect. It is hilarious. It's completely natural. As soon as you read the first paragraph, where he talks about the cold hitting you like broken ice, or he describes someone's teeth. Basically, their lips are like clams trying to suck in their teeth. The prose is excellent. The dialogue is excellent. This is basically just a perfectly written story about a man who has fallen in love with a half Moroccan woman who's sleeping with a psychiatrist, who's the only one to get his brother out of the psych ward, but the protagonist, who's an American cowboy, is so jealous that he stole his half Moroccan waifu that he is literally letting his brother rot in a psych ward. He's shooting. It's a very extremely cozy story. I did not expect this to be the final fiction piece, because it kind of doesn't tie into Rewilding unless you interpret the ending in particular ways. It was just a very cozy, fun story with a very strong writer, probably one of the top 4 or 3 strongest writers in terms of technical ability.
He has a piece in After the War as well.
Really?
So actually, many of the people who are included in Passage Prize 2 have pieces in.
Does he carry over
After the War?
Does he carry the prose style? Because the prose goes like it frolics. It's a very fast paced prose.
I admit that I have only read a couple of the stories out of After the War so far, because it did just arrive 2 days ago. So
well, it gives me something.
Give me a minute.
This is just a joy to read. Because you read it and it's like, okay, you're in perfectly good hands. You just get a smile to your lips when you know you're just genuinely in for like a frolically fun time. This is just a perfectly fun story. And there's a lot of depth. There's character moments in this, but the descriptiveness, the character, he knows exactly what his character wants to be, the mood, the syntax, all the characters are 100% 3D. Everything is made out of flesh. Everything from the stale Madeleines, everything is just perfectly described. Everyone. I love this. I really did love the story. That's all I want to say. Dylan T. Price, you're in the top 4, maybe even top 3. Yeah. You're excellent.
All right. Washi Cap, did you have one you want to shout out otherwise?
No, I mean I probably would have shouted out that one if I was going to. But swag. No. Sorry. Yeah. I did just look up the Dylan Price piece in After the War, and there's some flavorful dialogue in there. I could just tell because they're using abbreviations to indicate dialect. So, yeah.
Well, I think we've covered it as best we can. It was a rough journey.
You don't say.
That first session.
A long time coming.
And cheers to Tom Will.
Yeah, cheers to Tom Will.
In loving memory of Tom Will. He
rest in peace. Sorry you couldn't be here for the second one.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to roast the shit out of Pale Townie when I finish it.
AppCon Mag, you just made enemies for life. Just your warning.
Fortunately, fortunately for you, we all got the vax, and so we're gonna die in the next 5 years from cardiomyopathy.
Hey, that's a generous amount.
You don't have long to worry.
The Tuggers are coming after you right after.
A Tookie Bros. Something's tugging at my heartstrings.
Yeah, shouldn't have strings in your heart.
Confession though, Cap, you were about to say like coming up next. We don't know what's coming up next.
Coming up next, we're gonna transition to a weekly schedule, weekly uploads. We're gonna be covering the entire 1922 Encyclopedia Britannica.
Ooh.
We're gonna
Gabe versus the Encyclopedia. I'd actually like to listen to that.
Yeah, well, you got
pronouncing A through Z.
Yeah, you just gotta talk about the ones published in the 1920s before 1930.
Yeah, let's call it. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Good night and good evening.
And if I don't see you, good morning.
Yeah, that's what we should call our fans now, Tookie Tuggers. Dan Baltic has the Nutcrankers. We have the Tookie Tuggers.